All right. Everybody, let's get into it today. We got a good Friday today. We got Myron talking about the Zios taking over TikTok. You already know they had that shit for a minute though. They done. I can't even post a Myron or a Nick clip on there. Shit is crucial. Well, sometimes they'll let me post Myron because he kind of cool, but Nick, fuck no. And then we got Nick talking about Trump threatening ground raids in Iran. You already know what that sound like. War. So, and you already know who that benefits. But let's get into it today. We're gonna have a nice, good day today. It's Friday. Hope everybody had a good day. Let's get right into it.
The bitch shaking it, showing it. You this, you that. We laughing at them together. Oh! So stop treating these mother like they mean something.
Let's go to TikTok. All right, now, first video is, of course, we're gonna go get through this TikTok. Myron talking is easy 30 minutes, and then we're gonna get into this Nick video where he's talking about Iran. So let's go.
It was at this point.
Oh yeah. And before we get into this, to break this down, to spin it all around real quick for you guys. I want to say Oracle bought TikTok. Oracle just bought TikTok. So and Oracle is ran by, let's go see. I like to show you in your face. Larry Ellison. Raised Reform Jewish. Anyways, yeah. So
on top of all the
that's who runs
footage
TikTok right now.
Up, all the Osama bin Laden letter going viral, and all the pro-Palestine content going on there. It was at this point that the Israeli lobby said, we need to do something about TikTok. And this guy, Jonathan Greenblatt right here, was one of the people at the forefront identifying this issue and going against this issue. And Jonathan Greenblatt is smart. He's constantly monitoring anti-Semitism. He's looking around, and he quickly realized that if they don't get a hold on TikTok, they are going to lose America. So last year, I showed you guys this video, and TikTok was banned right after Trump came into office, if you guys remember. And he was able to get it back up. But TikTok went down for 24 hours. And here's how this happened.
TikTok, if you will, it is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people, and it's like Al Jazeera on.
And if you guys are wondering, this is Jonathan Greenblatt, head of the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, okay? There's supposed to be a league that, fights against bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism, but being honest with y'all, they only care about anti-Semitism. Okay? The anti-defamation leagues, their real job is to go after American citizens that criticize Israel, Zionism, etc. Okay? Because let me be honest with y'all, most people don't hate people, right? What they hate is control, censorship, right?
I don't think anybody hates Jewish people. We don't like what they do. We don't like the things that they're doing in the government. We don't like the things that they're doing in their country. We don't like their religion. We don't hate the people. We just don't like them. So it's a big difference. I don't hate them. I just don't like what they do.
Being able to criticize Zionism and or control of America, that's what people have an issue with.
Because it wouldn't be Christian-like to actually hate people.
People don't have issues with people on a personal basis, like person to person. No. Right? You guys know I have people on my team. This isn't thing. This is a Kabbalah gang thing. Okay? It's a gang and you're not a part of it.
Steroids.
In November of 2023, a recording was leaked of Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, referring to TikTok as a problem that needed to be taken care of.
We have a major
generational problem. Because they know that the young people are buying into TikTok. And this was the beginning, guys. So I talked about this yesterday on Anton Daniels, but let me give you guys a quick little thing. So in order for you guys to understand how Israel stole TikTok from America, you must understand the history going back in time. So back in August of 2020, under Trump administration 1, Trump had been flirting with the idea of getting TikTok banned because it had Chinese spyware was what they were making the allegation, okay? They were basically saying that TikTok was collecting a bunch of information from American citizens. As you guys know, TikTok, if you read their user guidelines, it's absolutely nuts. Like, they collect all your internet information, they collect all the stuff off your phone, etc. And the reason why they do this is so that they can go ahead and give you a more friendly user experience where everything that comes up on your algorithm or on your timeline is stuff that you're actually interested in. And for them to be able to give you such a personal news feed, they need to intercept and take a lot of information from your phone. And this was looked at as a huge security risk by the American government. There had been some talks about canceling it, banning it, getting it bought by an American citizen, changing it, blah, 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 but nothing ever happened. After October 7th happens, fast forward 3 years later, TikTok became overwhelmingly pro-Palestine. And in the pursuit of it becoming overwhelmingly pro-Palestine, a letter, a bombshell letter went viral called A Letter to America, written by Osama bin Laden, okay? And in the letter, Osama bin Laden wrote in excruciating detail all of his grievances with American foreign policy, to include one of the chief concerns, our support of Israel. And this was the first time that a lot of Americans have seen this letter. And the reason why is because when this letter was published back in the early 2000s, it wasn't shown on mainstream media because mainstream media alleged if this letter had been shown, there might have been a code word in it for more attacks, sleeper cells, etc. So that's how the mainstream media got around showing this letter. So for a lot of people, to include myself, it was the first time we had seen this letter. But here's the difference.
If y'all don't know what he's talking about, let's Ooh, excuse me. I don't want this though. I have like a better one on my. I had like a better one on my IG, but yeah, I had like a better looking one on my AI mode. Imagine. $100? What the fuck? Can I get a good looking picture? Jesus Christ. But anyways, yeah. wrote a letter and like Myron said, he wrote all his grievances. There we go. It looked like something like this. There we go. It looked like something like this. But yeah, I had it on my IG. I had posted on my story. But yeah, anyways, he definitely wrote a letter. I'll tell you that right now.
The young people that saw this letter, they did not go through the indoctrination camp that we went through 20 years ago. The young people have a fresh set of eyes and they didn't deal with the 9/11 propaganda that we did. So when they read this letter, everything connected. Oh, this is why the Middle East hates us, because we bomb and kill people all over the Middle East, because Osama bin Laden's letter was very well written and he listed all of his grievances out. The sanctions killing Iraqi children, the occupation of the Golan Heights, the occupation of Palestinians, getting into wars with Lebanon, right? All of our poor foreign policy all across the Middle East and in the Muslim world was all documented there, right? Now, obviously, this is to justify the killing of innocent people. That's never acceptable. But for the first time, you were able to see why we were attacked. And our generation clearly didn't see this, but these young people did. So it goes viral on TikTok, right? Gets censored immediately. It was at this point, right, on top of all the footage of Palestinians getting blown up, all the Osama bin Laden letter going viral, and all the pro-Palestine content going on there, it was at this point that the Israeli lobby said, we need to do something about TikTok. We need to do something about TikTok. And this guy, Jonathan Greenblatt right here, was one of the people at the forefront identifying this issue and going against this issue. And Jonathan Greenblatt is smart. He's constantly monitoring anti-Semitism. He's looking around, and he quickly realized that if they don't get a hold on TikTok, they are going to lose America, because TikTok is the most popular app. It is what the young people use overwhelmingly. Young people have brain rot. They don't have the attention spans. They prefer to be on TikTok and just scroll, scroll, scroll.
Stuff goes viral on TikTok quick too.
So if they're going to get indoctrinated with pro-Palestine content or content that's critical of Israel, this is going to create serious problems from them. 10 to 20 years from now, when these young people become a voting age, when these young people become politicians, when the young people enter into these elite institutions. Okay? Give me ones if that all makes sense. Now you guys understand the lore. This is all very important context so you guys understand the emergency frame and mindset that people like Jonathan Greenblatt and other members of the lobby were operating from.
The issue in the United States' support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Tag Lee, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like, fast.
Now, one interesting side note here is that I came across an ADL report expressing frustration that they couldn't access TikTok's analytics the way they can with every other big tech company. Like, should they be able to do that? Anyway, now we're about a month into this war, and all these studies started coming out, making claims about the proliferation of anti-Semitism on TikTok. The most notable one from a statistician and tech executive named Anthony Goldblum. He tweeted out on November 30th that a study he commissioned concluded 30 minutes a day on TikTok makes someone 17% more anti-Semitic. Politicians like Nikki Haley.
Bro, what the? How did that even, like, how did he come to that conclusion? What?
Would then go on to regurgitate this claim on national television.
We do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes.
And for those of you that are wondering, Nikki Haley gets a lot of money from the lobby. If you look at APAC tracker, I think she's received literally like over $1 million. Let's see here. Yeah, 1 million, bruh. 1,191,000 hours, right? Insane.
This candidate is pro-Israel.
The amount of money they get.
That someone watches TikTok every day.
Chat, always follow the money.
They become 17% more anti-Semitic.
Except that survey didn't say that at all because A, it conflated anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiments, which I believe to be different.
They are different, but they conflate the two because it makes a stronger political play for them.
And B, Goldblum himself admitted that he made some logical leaps when he was drawing his conclusion.
Because you guys got to understand, there's a difference between being anti-Israel and an anti-Semitic.
Now things are really moving at a rapid pace. The next day, on December 1st, 2023, the New York Post reported that a group of 40 mostly tech leaders and business executives confronted TikTok CEO Shou Chu over their concerns about anti-Semitism and the allegedly disproportionate popularity of pro-Palestine videos on the app. One of those executives, Anthony Goldblum, the same Anthony Goldblum who we were just talking about. And from everything I understand, the meeting didn't go well in the sense that TikTok didn't commit to a kind of wholesale removal of pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel content. So from then on, the fight against TikTok pivoted from a kind of PR battle that we were just looking at to now laying the groundwork to push legislation through that would ultimately ban the app. In March of 2024, a bill was introduced in Congress, H.R. 7521, called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, sponsored by Representative Mike Gallagher.
Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under 30. This is a common sense measure to protect our national security. I urge my colleagues to support this critical bipartisan legislation.
The argument is one we've heard before. TikTok, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, could pose a threat to U.S. national security by harvesting user data, and its algorithm could also be weaponized to, quote, brainwash Americans. Now, these concerns, I do think, are valid in a sense, but I think it's worth noting.
Yeah, but they didn't give a about that before, because when this was brought up in 2020, they never did anything about it. They did not do shit about it. It wasn't until the lobby came and started complaining that they did something about it. And then not only did they do something about it, they came and they bought it. Niggas just came and bought TikTok. They said, we're going to deal with this ourselves.
That companies like Facebook and Google engage in similar data collection practices, and then they would go on to sell this data to China. So China is getting the data anyway. But here's where things get really interesting. You start digging into Gallagher's largest campaign donors, and you uncover a story that goes far.
And guys, Always look at a candidate's donors, okay? The donors
Follow that money.
dictate the policy. I'm going to say that
Follow
again,
that
guys.
money.
The donors dictate the policy, okay? Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million, okay? She went to the White House several times. She gave him that $100 million, number one, to ensure that he would win. Number two, get out of jail free card, because you guys know he got indicted 4 different times. And in return, he would be extremely pro-Israel and give Israel what they want. Give them the resource they need to finish the war in Gaza. Give them the resource to help them fight Hezbollah. Give them the resources to destabilize Syria. Give them the resources to go after the Houthis and attack the Houthis ourselves. And then finally, we're on the final part of this, which is to
Iran.
effectuate regime change in Iran.
And that's what we're going to watch right after this.
Beyond data privacy
And remember, guys, this video is from a year ago. We're going through the lore. Okay, this was a year ago when they were talking about this.
or Chinese influence. Near the top of his donor list is AIPAC, the Israeli lobby. Here's a crazy statistic for you. Of the 500 plus members of Congress, only 33 members did not receive a donation from
And this is where we can give credit to people like Thomas Massey, you know, AOC, Ilhan Omar. They don't take money from the lobby, which is why they hate them. Cory Bush.
the Israeli lobby in the last campaign cycle. So essentially, when Israel wants something from America, they usually get it. Now, another contributor I want to draw your attention to, Palantir Technologies, which is
We know who runs Palantir.
With Teal?
Perfect.
is a defense contractor co-founded by billionaire Peter Thiel. Palantir just happens to work very closely with the Israeli military.
And Alex Karp is a FYI. And insufferable, by the way. Super pro-Israel. Hardcore Zionist. Annoying as if you guys ever listen to him talk, it's literally, he is the king of word salad. I almost kind of want to subject you guys to a little bit of his bullshit real fast. Are they still going live here?
When I feel good about how I look, I feel
Holy shit, this is crazy, bro.
Right.
Anyway, look at how annoying this
Bitch
guy
looks
Alex
sick.
Karp is when he speaks, guys. This dude is the worst.
Harvard, and certainly all of our adversaries know to be true, is viewed as something that's kind of worthy of great discussion.
All right, let me see. Let's see here.
Superiority of its ideas or values was not in it, and you that are the Technological Republic, and you quote Samuel Huntington in it, and you that argues the following: argues that the rise of the West was not made possible, quote, by the superiority of its ideas or values or religion, but rather by its superiority in applying organized violence. What did you mean by that, and is that what Palantir ultimately does?
Well, I think one of the most interesting about the quotes, that quote is it's indisputably and obviously true.
You genuinely believe that the U.S., this idea of ideas, values, religion has nothing to do with it? You think it really is about organizing violence?
No. Sorry, I didn't say that our ideas aren't important. Obviously, I come from an academic family, and I was planning to be an academic before I realized it was worthless and I'd be better at building things. But
we should talk about that too.
But like, okay, one of the biggest problems we have in our elite institutions, especially our Ivy Leagues, is this indisputable.
Yeah, they're trying to build that West. They're trying to build that beachfront in Gaza.
Truth that no one would listen to the superior of our ideas if our ability to organize in violence was inferior. That every single person in the world believes, outside of the faculty of Harvard, and certainly all of our adversaries know to be true, is viewed as something that's kind of worthy of great discussion and dispute. And the primary reason they dispute it, honestly, is because at their core, they want to undermine the superiority of Western values, which are meritocracy, rule of law, accepting that inputs and outputs are not the same, that are the basis of building the superiority on the military plane.
You think that the university culture is trying to undermine that?
well, I think it's moved from the 50s where it was trying to explain why our Constitution is the best way to organize our lives, not others, why meritocracy is necessary, even if it means...
Translation, he doesn't like the universities because a lot of them are extremely critical of Israel, as many of these Zionists dislike.
Letting in immigrants to your institution.
I don't like the universities because of their woke culture. They don't like the universities because of their criticism of Israel and their dislike for, obviously, what Israel stands for. It claims to be a democracy, but it's really an apartheid ethno-state, okay, that is occupying millions of people illegally.
And committed genocide.
Why inputs and outputs are the same, why the First, Second, Third, Fourth Amendment are unique, and why...
Yeah, so as you guys can see here, this dude incredibly annoying, speaks in a pompous manner, can't say anything directly, used a bunch of words salad and filler language to convey himself in an effort to look more educated than he really is, or to make himself sound smarter than he really is. And that's the problem with a lot of these technocrats. They try to sound smart, but they really are. Peter Thiel does this, Elon Musk does this, Alex Karp does this. Anytime I listen to these guys speak publicly, they suck. I speak better than these niggas, if we're going to be all the way at 1,000. Right? And these guys have went to some elite institutions, they hold prestigious degrees, right? And they still can barely convey themselves properly, or in a way that's understandable to the average guy. Actually, this is one of his better performances. If you watch some of his other interviews, it's 10 times worse than this, dude. 10 times worse. I'll play a little bit more of this chalkboard speaking.
It was worth standing up for these values has literally been transformed, especially in the humanities departments too. Of course, none of that could work because no one like us is good at doing that, basically. I mean, that's like, and therefore the whole thing couldn't work. And downstream of that is enormous dysfunction, and you see this in all sorts of issues. Our primary and most important adversary, I say adversary consciously and not enemy, is China. What? And we will decide, AI and the ability to implement it on the battlefield primarily will decide the values, i.e. the norms, the laws, and the spirit of the laws that are imposed upon us across the globe. And if you think for a minute they believe anything that we're being taught in our idiotic faculty, you are even more idiotic than the professors teaching you it. And I'll tell you, if you actually believe in these values, again, I'm not a neocon, I never was.
Yeah, you are, bro. What the are you talking about?
Why I'm skeptical of immigration, because I don't think all this cultural assimilation hasn't worked in the last 50 years, and that's an obvious truth you're also not allowed to say. I'm skeptical of imposing values on other people. I never believed we should or try to make the Arab Middle East, Wilsonian people, like a Wilsonian ideal imposed upon them. If you believe for a second that anyone else outside this country believes that we are going to defend our values without superiority and moral violence, you're just living in a world that doesn't exist. It does not exist, and no matter how much you try to impose it on the rest of us, it still won't exist.
Okay. He could have said that in 30 seconds, but he spent several minutes trying to explain it.
God damn.
Right? In a very roundabout way. If I had to come up with a word for Alex Karp, he's pedantic. That is a word I would use for this guy. Just unnecessarily wordy and complex for no reason. This guy's the definition of pedantic. There you go. All right, let's get back to it.
Providing advanced surveillance and targeting software used extensively.
And yes, if you're wondering, he is
on Gaza. And one of their consultants, a man named Jacob Hellberg, was responsible for writing the bill. Yeah, it's incredible. A defense contractor who profits off Israel's war were also the ones behind drafting a bill that would, in effect, stifle criticism of said war, which is a clear conflict of interest, no? At around the same time, the Federations of North America penned a letter to Congress urging lawmakers to ban TikTok due to anti-Semitism. Not one mention in their letter about China or data privacy.
TikTok runs all sorts of videos that portray the Israelis acting towards the Palestinians in barbaric ways. And when young people see these videos on TikTok, they obviously become remarkably sympathetic to the Palestinians, and they think,
yeah. I mean, seeing kids get blown up made people say, what the is going on here? Right? Israel really misplayed October 7th, dude. Their response to October 7th was so disproportionate that it made the whole world turn against them.
Right.
badly, to put it mildly,
This is John Mersheimer, by the way. Smart guy. I like John Mersheimer.
of the Israelis. So
he was one of the first people to like really be noticing. Okay. I think he's a professor at the University of Chicago. He's somewhere out there in the Midwest. He wrote a book back in like 05, 06, 07, The Israel Lobby, where he went into detail about this shit.
lobby would like to shut down TikTok.
No, he's not. He's German. I think his ancestor sees he's German, Mersheimer.
On March 23rd, 2024, H.R. 7521 passed with largely bipartisan support. Looking back, I was fully expecting the bill to pass the House very, very quickly and easily because there are a lot of bills that pass the House and don't make it through the Senate. The Senate is meant to slow things down. But 1 month later, on April 24th, the act passed in the Senate, again, with overwhelming bipartisan support, and was signed into law by Joe Biden on the following day. Like I said, I had never seen a bill go through Congress with that kind of speed and velocity, with very little opposition.
And that is whenever you put something that's pro-Israel, it's bipartisan. Bless, send it up.
Everybody say yes to that shit.
It's wild.
Told you guys this before. Democrat Party, Republican Party, left wing, right wing, doesn't matter. Bird flies to Israel every single time, chat. Red or blue, it's the doesn't matter.
Red or blue is
it becomes an issue, if you know what I'm saying.
It's crazy.
And maybe even wilder, by that summer, Mike Gallagher, the representative who had sponsored the bill, was now working for Palantir as their head of defense. He didn't even finish out his term. He just resigned from Congress and took a job there. I know, all of this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. In fact, the ADL did call this a conspiracy theory. The Atlantic also called this a conspiracy theory.
Aren't taking away TikTok. And isn't it funny? A year ago, they were saying they're not, but they definitely did.
They even name-checked me in their article. Quote, "The entire world knows exactly why the U.S. is trying to ban TikTok," James Lee declared on March 16th. Not bad for your boy here, huh? And honestly, this would remain a conspiracy theory. I don't know if I would have made this video if they hadn't come out and confirmed their true motivations.
Typically, the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here? Some wonder why there was such overwhelming support for us to shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok.
Yeah, because TikTok has a natural algorithm. That is why.
Broadcast.
And on top of that, it didn't have the same level of censorship and control as the other platforms. The other platforms are absolutely run by them boys. We know that. Meta, Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. Instagram, Adam Mosseri. YouTube for years, over 10 years. Susan Wojcicki. Google, Sergey Brin. So it's like, you know what I mean? Now, fast forward to today.
At this point, TikTok has basically become Israeli spyware.
This is from Mint Press News. TikTok is being run by a bunch of Unit 8200 agents, which is the Israeli version of the NSA. Root Medallion.
Yeah, Unit 8300, guys, is their signals intelligence squad. Okay, they're literally the equivalent to our NSA, collecting phone information, signals information, etc. That is what Unit 8300 is for the IDF. It is a component of their military. It's military signals intelligence. Let me actually show you guys this. If you guys watch me, you guys know we've talked about the Israeli intelligence community for a while. But let's go ahead and, for those of you that are not familiar, or 8200, excuse me, I said 8300. Here we go. Unit 8200 is an Israeli intelligence corps unit of the IDF responsible for clandestine operation, collecting signal intelligence and code decryption and counterintelligence, cyber warfare, military intelligence, and surveillance. Okay? Our functional equivalent of the NSA.
Who works on the trust and safety team on News. TikTok is being run by a bunch of Unit 8200 agents, which is the Israeli version of the NSA.
That's crazy, bro. Running their trust and safety. And for those of you that are wondering, trust and safety, guys, is the unit that handles censorship for social media platforms. So, like, if you get banned, if you get demonetized, if you get suspended or any of this other bullshit, it's always the trust and safety parts of these social media platforms that do that. YouTube has a trust and safety, Instagram has a trust and safety, Meta has a trust and safety, obviously TikTok has a trust and safety. But the fact that TikTok's trust and safety is Unit 8200, it's like, bruh.
I'm telling you, bro, like you can't get shit out on TikTok. Like I do not like my account probably has been banned on TikTok about a billion times. Like I do not care about TikTok at all. I really might just stop posting on there. I just use it to get the captions for my videos, but that's about it. I don't use it for anything else for real. So
You know, it's like, come on, dude. Seriously.
Root Medallion, who works on the trust and safety team on TikTok, based in New York. And would you look at that? Israeli military.
Bro, and just so you guys know, from Meta, right? Her name is, I think, Jordana Cutler. This woman right here, this chick, right? She's the director of public policy for Israel at Meta Platforms, with a role expanding additionally to diaspora. She was formerly a senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
oh wow.
So in other words, this woman has an enormous amount of power over at Meta, which oversees both Facebook and Instagram. And she used to serve under Benjamin Netanyahu. She was a high-level government official. And she's involved in the advising and policy creation over at Meta. She became director of public policy for Israel and the diaspora as a role she created at the company that has no parallel
It means it's only a matter of time for me, guys, on there. It's only a matter of time.
any other high-tech company. Bruh. So
It's
they
only a
basically
matter
made
of
up a position
time
for
for
her
they
to just
ban
say
it
she was
on
Meta.
IG.
Insane. This is why when I tell you guys, censorship is, this is what I mean, okay? All the main architects of censorship, whether it's Media Matters, ADL, these trusted safety boards on these different social media platforms, it's almost always staffed by bro, every time. Insane how much power they have. They literally have the power to kick you off of social media platforms and remove your voice in your
Literally.
platform. This is why I have to do the OSS. This is why I'm demonetized on YouTube. This is why I got banned on Meta so many different times. This is why Facebook is gone to this day. They control it all, and they just bought TikTok.
Intelligence Unit 8200. Here's another one. Omer Carmeli, global marketing at TikTok, former field operations specialist, IDF Elite Intelligence Unit. Einav Mir, client.
And look, I get it, bro. Like, a lot of you guys are talking about Cloud Fold, and a lot of you guys are talking about Andrew Tate Fold, a lot of you guys talk about Fresh Folding, blah, blah, blah. You guys got to understand, bro, that not everyone is prepared to deal with this bullshit, okay? Dealing with these guys is a pain in the bro. I think you guys need to understand this, okay? I get it. People have families to feed. People have people that they have to take care of. People have, you know, businesses to run. So, like, I never really get mad. If you guys notice, like, I don't really, like, attack people for being scared to talk about this topic, because I understand that this is a very personal decision, and quite frankly, it's not lucrative. It's extremely taxing financially. It's extremely taxing personally. It's extremely difficult to do, right? You have to have other things in place, right, to talk about this topic. And quite frankly, I don't think it's fair to attack people and say, oh, you're a coward, you folded, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't think it's fair. Like, people are attacking Clav or whatever for meeting with Dave Grumman, or you guys attack Andrew, you guys have attacked Sneeko for before, or Fresh. Like, yo, it is what it is, bro. Not everybody is equipped to or wants to deal with this fight. Okay? There's some crazy niggas out there like me who don't give a, but a lot of people don't want to deal with this bullshit, bro.
No, and that's what I'll be telling my peoples too. I'll be like, I know that especially with the stuff I be posting, because I be so on it. I know I'm not gonna be able to do certain things, but I know that's just the sacrifice you just got to give up to tell the truth. Shit, fuck it. What else? What else do you really want to do besides tell the? I don't know. What else could you do? Like, I don't know what else would you want to do besides tell the truth and spread the gospel. So, what other job is there? What other? My fault, Nick. What other job is there to do besides spread the truth and the gospel? We're not spreading hate. We're not saying we hate Jewish people. Nobody's saying we hate Jewish people. Nobody's saying we want the Holocaust to happen again. Nobody's saying we want to eradicate them. We just don't like the way you run our government, and we want you out of our government. And really, we don't really have anything in common there either. So it's like is I don't want to sound like that guy, but we're not really compatible. Okay, so yeah.
Our featured story, which is about this imminent war with Iran. I've been meaning to talk about this for a while, and it's been a minute. Our featured story is about how we are rapidly hurtling towards a second wave of attacks against Iran. And it appears to me that this is inevitable and unavoidable. It is almost certainly going to happen. It was announced today by President Trump that if Iran does not come to the negotiating table and give up on basically everything, give up their nuclear centrifuges, give up their enriched uranium.
I'm about to say it was the uranium, then it was the nuclear, then it's the ballistic missiles.
Give up their ability to enrich uranium. Give up their longer range missiles. Give up their support for the proxies. Trump is effectively demanding a complete and total surrender, or else Trump says we are going to war with Iran. And that menu of options to strike Iran now consists in a much wider range of possibilities. They now say that the Trump administration is considering special operations raids on the ground. So we're not just talking about airstrikes this time. We're not just talking about bombing government buildings and missiles and nuclear sites
or drones. We're actually talking about boots on the ground. That's how you know it's regime change, and that's how you know it's going to get ugly and nasty.
The Pentagon is now talking about American soldiers inside Iran physically dismantling Iranian infrastructure. And to understand how we got here, we do have to back it up a little bit. And we'll reiterate some of the things that I hope you already know about the whole situation. So, of course, Donald Trump was basically elected for this exact purpose. I said this in 2024. The reason that Trump won the election.
And we watched the video on that earlier early in the year.
The reason that Trump became so popular, they let him. You do understand this, right? Trump was allowed to become popular. He was allowed to win the election. They stood down whatever these forces are that conspired against him in 2016 and 2020. They stood down and they let him become successful. And this was telegraphed years in advance. It was telegraphed after October 7th. Because after Israel was attacked on that day, a number of powerful American Jews, maybe you could say a majority of American Jews in general, shifted to the right. Why? Because they saw the reality of what is happening on the ground in Israel, which is that there is a contingent of Palestinian Muslims that have a genocidal hatred for Israel. That's the perception. That's the narrative. On that day, this performance, which is October 7th,
that they claimed that they had no idea what was going to happen.
There was this theater, a stage play put on for world Jewry. And the moral of that story was Israelis are not safe. Jews are not safe. We have to stick together. We need to be cohesive. And Jews in America that day were mugged by reality. They realized the world is still a dangerous place for Jews. And feeling vulnerable, they became more right-wing, seeking security through military.
Because right-wing goes to war.
Through
left-wing lets the immigrants in.
Tribalism. What's more, they saw the American political left sympathize with the Palestinians. And they were alienated from the political left by this. They saw that the far left, the progressives, the radicals, almost immediately sympathized not just with the Palestinian cause, but with Hamas. And this alienated many Jews who would have considered themselves liberals or Democrats. And so there was a shift rightward among all American Jews. I don't care how left-wing or liberal they were, they all shifted somewhat to the right after this day. Being very powerful in America, this had a knock-on effect. It made America more right-wing. if the liberal Jews running the media and academia and the lawyers and the donors and the ones in Silicon Valley and Wall Street, if they all became more right-wing that day, then they used their influence to make America more right-wing. America did not have an epiphany about wokeness. These people did. And so they stood down and they allowed Trump to win. Why? Because they knew that Trump was a vehicle for Israel's revenge. Whereas left-wing protesters and Democrats and liberals and the Biden administration were huffing and puffing all the way, trying to restrain Israel, criticizing Israel, trying to get them to stop their campaign. Powerful American Jews knew that if a Republican was elected to the White House and to the rest of the government, that they would allow Israel to take the gloves off and would actually supplement their efforts in a major way. So once you understand this, you realize that war with Iran in the Trump administration is a feature, not a bug. I know there are a lot of Trump supporters that believe that Trump's pro-Israel politics is a compartmentalized aspect of his program. They say that he's got lots of different policies, and some we like and some we don't like, and this idea that he wants to support a war with Iran, well, that's just one among other policies. And they also have this idea that they have this relationship with the president, that the president is listening to them, reading their tweets, receptive to their outrage, their emotions.
He's not even on Twitter.
And there was this idea among very naive and stupid people that might run certain Twitter accounts like AF Post, among other people like Andrew Torba, who might be named Mike Cernovich. And these naive and foolish and stupid people thought that we could try to support the good and criticize the bad, that we could sort of work with this arrangement. They thought that those pro-Israel politics were just sort of part of the deal, and maybe they could be mitigated in some way through pressure on social media. Well, I hate to tell you this, but that is absolutely not how it works. Trump was given hundreds of millions of dollars by donors with the understanding that the only way that he could unlock that money is if he gave them assurances that he would go to war with Iran. He is not elected and going to war. He was elected to go to war. You understand the difference? This is why we have a Trump administration. Actually, it's the complete opposite. The reason he is elected is to go to war with Iran, and all of the other things are ancillary. The trade war, the deportations, all the rest of it. Those are the stocking stuffers. Those are the bonuses. War with Iran is the big ticket item that got him into the White House in the first place, and that's why he's there. He is a Trojan horse, and the purpose of the horse is not to give a gift to the city and the base. The purpose of the horse is to get the soldiers inside the city walls where they need to be. The purpose is to get Mike Waltz in the National Security Council. The purpose is to get all of these Zionists inside the Pentagon, inside the State Department, so that they can carry out their mission, which has been the case for a long time. And so as quickly as Trump was elected, this started. Netanyahu began visiting the White House.
Yeah, he didn't take no time for Net to start visiting. Bro was doing podcast runs in the U.S. You regulated?
House demanding a war with Iran. Trump's own personnel.
I can't believe you regulated.
Pushing for a war with Iran.
Big
Trump
Yahoo.
attempted to negotiate with Iran because I think that in his heart of hearts, Trump is against a war ideologically. But ultimately, this was in vain because the table had already been set. Long ago, the Israelis and the Zionists and the Jews poisoned Trump's relationship personally with the nation of Iran by pushing him to assassinate Soleimani, by pushing him to rip up the Iran nuclear deal, by branding the Iranian Revolutionary Guard a terrorist group. They had already poisoned the well. They had alienated this particular president from Iran. They knew that a rapprochement would be impossible. They knew that diplomacy would be impossible because the seeds of distrust had been sowed a long time ago. And their insurance policy was they fabricated this myth that Iran was trying to assassinate Trump. Remember that? During the election, the Israel-infiltrated FBI, the Israel-infiltrated Pentagon put out false intelligence that said that Iran was trying to kill Trump. And so, if the well was already not sufficiently poisoned by the behavior of the first Trump administration, surely as Trump was propelled into the nomination and then the White House a third time, second or third time, respectively, that little assassination plot, that little piece of propaganda, that would do the trick. That would tip it in and seal the deal. And so Trump attempted to negotiate with Iran, attempted to pick up where Biden left off and normalize relations with Iran. But the damage was already done. And we were already on a collision course with this country. Throughout the first half of the last year, the Israelis propagandized the world about an imminent Iranian nuclear capability. Eventually, they launched their preemptive attack. They could not defend themselves, and they knew they couldn't. And that is how they...
Which is why they had to get us. And the reason they got us is because they were getting fucked so bad. They was like, yo, America, if you don't come over here and get these niggas, they're fucking us right now. We can't stop these missiles. They're fucking getting through this weak-ass dome that we say we got that can stop anything. It's getting right through this shit and blowing up all our shit. If you don't stop these niggas, we gonna nuke them. That's what they said. That's what they said.
Were able to draw the United States into the conflict, and we bombed Iran's nuclear program.
Hopefully thinking, okay, when we bombed them, they didn't really bomb. They didn't hit anything. They let the Iranians know they were gonna bomb them. It was like a fake bomb to like make Israel chill out. I want to say it was like a fake bombing to make, because they didn't really like destroy anything. They didn't lose anything. It was just a bombing to make Israel say to be able to say, hey, we bombed them. Relax. Y'all gonna relax. Y'all chill out.
Now again, a lot of Trump fans and Trump shills saw that first strike on Iran, and they lied to themselves, and they coped. And they said, hey, trust the plan. They said this is 5-dimensional chess. Once the whole thing was over, they wiped their brow, they breathed a sigh of relief, and they said, see, Trump isn't a neocon. He just bombed Iran once, and now it's over. Now it's all finished. They said, actually, it was genius. It was ideal.
I don't know why niggas would say that.
They said Trump was able to disable Iran's nuclear hedge. He was able to do it without committing us into a war. It was a clean, effective operation. And now we don't have to go to war with Iran. We've neutralized their program, and we could focus our attention elsewhere. That's what they all told themselves, and that was the cope. But here was the problem with that line of thinking, okay? Iran's nuclear problem was never the problem, ever.
It was Israel.
The real problem at the heart of this antagonism between Israel and Iran is that Israel cannot tolerate the existence of a large, powerful Islamist state that does not recognize Israel. That is the fundamental problem. As long as Iran is Islamist, as long as it is powerful enough to check Israel's hegemony, as long as it influences other Islamist groups in the Middle East that challenges Israel's hegemony in the region, and as long as they will not normalize those relations, then Israel wants this country destroyed. That is Israel's mortal enemy. Just as it was Bashar al-Assad before that and Saddam Hussein before that. So Israel wants to utterly annihilate Iran. It is for this reason that Iran has built up a nuclear hedge.
Right.
That was actually the reaction. The first move is that the United States and Israel supported both sides in the Iran-Iraq war. The United States and Israel collaborated to overthrow Saddam Hussein. The United States and Israel collaborated to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. The reaction to this policy, the reaction to this grand strategy was to create a nuclear hedge. And this, unfortunately, puts Iran between a rock and a hard place. No pun intended. If they don't have a nuclear hedge, they are vulnerable. If they do have one, then that creates a pretext for Israel to convince the United States to go to war with them. But understand, the U.S. interest in Iran is limited.
The funny thing is, Israel crying about Iran having nukes illegally when they have nukes illegally is fucking hilarious. Like, how are you mad that they have nukes and you have nukes? Like, why shouldn't they have nukes? I would trust Iran with fucking nukes before I trust Israel, because at least them niggas are gonna use it to protect themselves. You're gonna just use it because you mad at niggas.
In Israel, it is unlimited. Israel wants Iran to be wiped out. Therefore,
even though the Muslims be a little, y'all be a little. That's what I'm saying. Y'all, you motherfuckers, man. Y'all niggas need to come to Christ, okay? Just all that other it's only Christ. There's no other religion, all right? Y'all need to wake up, all right? Get out that fucking sand demon shit. Get out that Rimfan Saturn star worship shit. Get out that shit. Christ is king, all right?
Iran has a nuclear hedge. As long as Iran has a nuclear hedge, we need to ensure that they do not become a nuclear-armed state. That's a limited objective. We don't necessarily mind in itself that they have allies in Iraq, that they have allies in Syria or in Lebanon or Yemen, not by itself. We don't necessarily have a problem that Iran has missile systems, not in itself. We do have a problem that Iran has nuclear centrifuges. Because as the global hegemon, one of our real grand strategy objectives is to prevent the proliferation of WMDs. Because that is the only way that a revisionist middle power could ever threaten us. Iran would not ever threaten us with conventional capabilities. But any country with a limited nuclear, biological, or chemical arsenal
Israel
could theoretically threaten the United States, either on our homeland through terrorism, or if we needed to intervene in some region by having an asymmetrical deterrent against U.S. intervention.
I'm telling you, Israel said, look, we about to nuke these niggas. They just fucked our shit up. The missiles they sent over, and they have 1 billion more. We don't have no more. We don't have no more defensive missiles. They have 1 billion more offensive missiles. Okay, they just fucked us up. We finna nuke these niggas. If you don't do something, we're finna nuke the shit out of them.
So understand, that is how the table is set. Israel wants to destroy Iran. So Iran has a nuclear hedge. That nuclear hedge invites intense U.S. scrutiny. What does this have to do with the war last year? Well, Israel, and even Trump himself, the United States has been driven into a confrontation with Iran over the nuclear program. That has been the pretext. That has been the bait. In the first term, we were told that we have to rip up the nuclear deal because that will not sufficiently constrain Iran from getting a bomb. We were told that we had to kill Soleimani and do these things because Iran is nuclearizing and they're this anti-American nation seeking a nuclear bomb.
They're what is his favorite number? 10 years away. They're 5 years away. They're a couple years away from getting uranium or getting a nuclear bomb. He says the same shit every time.
Year, the pretext for Israel's preemptive strike was that they had a nuke. And what was the U.S. strike on Iran? What was Midnight Hammer? The U.S. strike on Iran last year was a limited strike on Iran's nuclear centrifuges. But understand it in terms of the bigger picture. From our perspective, American Trump supporters were saying, well, the day is saved. We took out their nukes, and now they no longer pose a threat. Because again, that's our limited objective. That is the narrow way in which we find ourselves at odds intrinsically with Iran.
And that's what they were saying because they didn't really do that. Because if, I Iran had posted what actually happened, and they showed that they didn't really do anything. Iran really knew what was going on. They was able to get their uranium out. Like, it was really like a fake operation per se to make Israel feel good about the bombing so that they didn't nuke them or keep attacking them. But again, like Nick said, it's not about them having nukes. It's that they don't want them. They don't want them to be there. They want to eradicate them.
Iran. And so with the nuclear hedge off the table, people say we no longer need to engage Iran, confront Iran. There's no longer a reason to engage Iran with hostilities. It's over because their nuclear program could not easily be reconstituted. So from our perspective, people said the day is saved, the issue is resolved, and now we're all going to live happily ever after. But again, that fundamentally misunderstands that there are three parties. There are three variables in this equation. What we did in June could be perceived one way, as a one-and-done strike that eliminated the one thing we were worried about. But think about it from Israel's perspective. If Israel's goal is to topple Iran, taking out their nuclear program is only the first step. The nuclear program is what protects Iran. If Iran is engaged in a once-and-for-all battle, an existential battle for its existence, then Iran could always pull that trigger. That's their dead man switch, so to speak. They get a nuclear bomb, and then they become a porcupine. If they find themselves up against a wall, the U.S. and Israel breathing down their neck, ready to slit their throat, Iran can race towards a bomb and deter any major attack. And so with that nuclear hedge offline, it leaves them vulnerable. Israel's not finished because, again, Israel's problem is not that Iran has nukes. Their problem is that Iran's nukes protect Iran from being destroyed. Their goal is to destroy Iran.
Right.
So once the nuclear program was destroyed, and
They want
Israel
regime
was bombing
change.
other sites also, missile launch platforms and government targets and decapitation strike on the military leadership, Israel then began to plan their next move, which is to further degrade Iran's other defenses, its proxies, and its missile program. The nuclear hedge is only the biggest deterrent that Iran has. Its other deterrent is that if Iran is attacked, they can launch missiles at Israel and blot out the sky with ballistic missiles.
Yeah, they got a lot of ballistic
ruinous
missiles.
for Israel. It would be painful.
Because, again, like I said earlier, they have more ballistic missiles than Israel has defense missiles.
Their other deterrent is that if Iran is utterly destroyed, all their missiles, their nuclear hedge, their military is neutralized, well, then Iran's proxies, which are dispersed, could launch a second strike. If for whatever reason, Iran cannot race towards a nuke, cannot hit the button and launch missiles at Israel from Iran, cannot retaliate in a conventional way, well, then they can rely on Hezbollah in Iraq, Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Syria, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas to bomb Israel. And Israel cannot launch a regional attack on everybody everywhere. You can't take out all of Iran's missiles and all of Iran's air defense and Iran's leadership and take out the 90,000 Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq and take out the 200,000 Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon and take out the Houthis. You can't do it everywhere at all times. We're now talking about millions of soldiers here.
Especially not Israel.
And probably
it's the size of New
maybe
Jersey.
hundreds of thousands of different kinds of rockets and missiles. They couldn't do it. So the United States said, oh, we're done. We bombed their nukes. We're good. They're not a threat to us. Israel said, phase one complete. They said, now the runway has been cleared. Now that the worst deterrent has been taken offline, now we can degrade their other capabilities. And so Israel began to regroup and plan.
Also, too, was that Israel found out how the U.S. didn't really do anything with the bombings, and I would imagine they're pretty angry, and since they know that they were fake, it was a play act. That's why they're going. I feel like that's why they're going a little bit more harder because they know they didn't really do anything and they still have that uranium and shit.
And prepare to then launch attacks on Iran's missiles, on Iran's proxies, on its military leadership or civilian leadership. That brings us to where we are right now. Now, we're 7 months out after that initial war. And I said this the day after that initial war. After we bomb Iran, after Israel bombs Iran, what is Iran's reaction? We thought about America's perspective. We thought about Israel's perspective. What is Iran's perspective? Well, it's very important to consider that the United States was in negotiations with Iran when that
Israel
war started. And when the war started, the United States came out and said it was a fake out. Steve Witkoff and Trump went on TV and said, we didn't really intend to make a deal with Iran. We were negotiating with them so that they would lower their guard and that they would not expect or anticipate a preemptive strike. And that allowed Israel to have that element of surprise. And that also then allowed us to bomb them. Okay, so if you're Iran, what is your reaction to all of this? Well, you realize that you cannot trust the United States.
You can't trust the
In
U.S.
particular, you cannot trust Trump.
You can't trust the U.S. and especially when it comes to Israel affairs, because you know that they're going to go to bat for Israel and they will try to destroy you for Israel.
They say that if we engage with the United States in diplomacy, they're going to pull the rug out from under us. We're lowering our guard. We're vulnerable. If we think we're going to get a deal, in the end, we get attacked. And the United States is either unable or unwilling to restrain Israel. The tail seems to wag the dog. The United States seems to be actually the junior partner in Israel's foreign policy. So what does Iran do in response to the war? Well, immediately they send out all of the weapons inspectors from the IAEA. Immediately they cut off all diplomacy with the United States. And then their next step is to reconstitute all of their defensive capabilities. They are now effectively in a war with Israel and the United States. That is how they see it. So if you're in a war with the United States, what's your only deterrent? A nuclear bomb. So what do you think Iran did? I imagine they started moving their highly enriched uranium, building new enrichment facilities. They have apparently undisclosed sites that are even deeper inside the mountains, even deeper underground than the ones that we knew about at Fordo and at Natanz. So Israel has their highly enriched uranium. They have other centrifuges. They have other sites we don't know about. And the word is they start to reconstitute their deterrent capabilities. They start to reconstitute their nuclear hedge to deter the United States. They start to reconstitute their missiles as a deterrent against Israel. Nukes deter the U.S., missiles and a nuke deter Israel. So Iran goes right back to work, building their missiles, building their nukes, furnishing their proxies like Hezbollah with billions of dollars so that they can rearm themselves. Now, what does Israel say? Well, if Israel is trying to destroy Iran, they cannot allow Iran to reconstitute. So you know that eventually, on a long enough timeline, Israel, and actually sooner rather than later, Israel's going to want to go back to war. If Israel's goal is to destroy Iran, it defeats the purpose of degrading their defenses if you're just going to wait for them to build them back up. Israel wants to destroy Iran, so we got to take out their defenses. You take out their defenses so that you can make a decisive strike. But if you wait too long, then Iran is simply just going to rebuild because they're a big and a rich country. They're an oil-rich country with a huge population. They are fortified. This country is built for a war with Israel. It's quite literally like the topography was built for a war. It's mountainous. It's very difficult terrain. It's 3 times the size of Iraq, huge population. So Israel's next move is they're not going to wait for Iran to do this. They are very soon going to want to go back in. And that will be the pretext. They will say it will have all been in vain. And actually, it will have ensured that Iran gets the bomb. if we do nothing now. The way that the Israelis are going to spin it is we attacked Iran once. That set them on the path inexorably to rearmament, not just with missiles, but also with nukes. We have to hit them again. It's a necessity. Otherwise, the first one, again, it was not only a waste, it would have accelerated the timeline for Iran to nuclearize. And it's hard to argue with this. Now, for the United States, how do we respond now to Iran's rearmament? Well, we have to assume surely that Iran is going to build a nuke. We must assume this. They have ejected the inspectors. They have ejected.
Especially after we bombed them, and then we talk about how we was just faking them out, and then we fucking, like you said, eject the inspectors.
Did the IAEA. We know that we did not fully
bomb Qatar,
destroy their centrifuges, their stockpile of enriched uranium. And now they won't negotiate with us. By tricking them and bombing them, we have spoiled any potential rapport or trust. They won't talk to us. So we must assume that if they're not talking and they're rearming, that there is this ticking timeline where they're going to build a nuclear bomb. Now the United States is faced with exactly two possibilities. If Iran is building another nuclear hedge, then we can either negotiate with them to give it up, or we have to bomb them again. Once again, those are our only two options. There is no third option where we let them get the bomb. I know that I have said in the past that I think that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but I'm telling you, the Pentagon cannot accept this. That is just U.S. strategy. Thinking in terms of the logic of international affairs, the United States cannot accept Iran having a bomb. We must assume they're building one. We must assume they are hell-bent on building one after that war. So you have two options. You can either blow up their bomb or you can negotiate. Well, the reason why that war last year was such a mistake is because Israel got us to bomb Iran directly. That had never happened before. We have killed their officials outside Iran. We have attacked their proxies outside of their country, not on their soil. But by bombing their soil in a sneak attack during negotiations, Israel made us get our hands dirty. They made us assume responsibility, assume the liability and the blame for all of it.
Right, and that's what I was about to say. Like, us bombing them made us basically like you said, and when we bombed Qatar, it showed that we can't, that whatever Israel is gonna need or whatever Israel is going through, we're gonna try to come through and do whatever we need to do to stop or prevent or attack whoever we need to.
That is why this was a great success for Israel. In that moment, we bought the war. And why is that the case? Because after we sneak Iran, we no longer can credibly go to them as a neutral party. We can't go to them and say, hey, we're cutting out Israel. We want to make a deal. You can trust us. We don't want to destroy you. By bombing them, we got our hands dirty. We got blood on our hands. We deceived them. We sabotaged any potential trust, any potential relationship. We demonstrated that we are unable to restrain Israel, that they are in fact in control of our foreign policy. And so what does that mean? It means that that second option of diplomacy is probably permanently foreclosed. At the minimum, it is extraordinarily difficult. It's just not going to happen. So Iran doesn't trust us. They don't want to negotiate. The United States is making these maximalist demands. We're basically telling Iran, you have to make yourself completely defenseless or else we will destroy you. They will never agree to that. They can't make themselves defenseless because, again, the reason they have pursued these weapon systems is because Israel wants them to be destroyed.
Right.
So it has put us in an unavoidable, you see logically now how we are in an unavoidable collision course because Iran is rearming. They won't negotiate. We can't let them rearm. And although we might want to negotiate, that has been sabotaged. There's also a very short timeline because the longer we wait, mathematically, the more we have to assume that they have rebuilt. So this puts us, like I said it in 2024, I said it in 2025, we are trapped in this reciprocal exchange for which there is no off-ramp. You think that we live in a world where we have infinite choices and there's so many different permutations, so many different possibilities of where things can go. But what people don't realize is that we have been making decisions for 20 years. And every time we make a decision, we close off an entire tree of possibilities. That's the unseen aspect of all this. A lot of people saw last year, well, we bombed Iran and we did it one time and it wasn't a big deal. What they did not see is how that has now tied our hands, and we are now being sent inexorably on really only one possible course of action. And it's not to say that it is impossible that we're able to negotiate, but it is extraordinarily unlikely and difficult. You see?
I definitely agree with Nick right there. I definitely agree with Nick. The path that we're going on with Iran is definitely detrimental to the U.S. in the sense of we're going to be the ones fighting the war. And that's why I understand Nick when he says he doesn't want them to rearm because it wouldn't be smart for us to be. But there are so many people that already have nuclear weapons. It's like, who cares if they get armed, because then they just would be able to defend themselves, if that makes sense. So that's why I don't want to say who cares, but I understand why he wouldn't want them to be armed, because why would we want a bunch of Muslims to have nukes? Like, the fuck, they already kill each other over there. But like I said, there's more than we have more than one power. That we're not the only people that have nukes. So for them to have nuclear power, I just feel like they would be able to stand on their own and wouldn't have to listen to us or Israel. So that would be that, and we wouldn't have to be over there anymore anyways, because Israel wouldn't be able to just nuke them. But yeah, today was a nice chill day, nothing too crazy. We watched Nick. We didn't even get into the Myron. We didn't even finish. We might do that on Monday. Finish that, or do an hour of that Monday, because that shit is another long ass episode. But yeah, as you can see, TikTok is ran by Palantir, basically Palantir and Oracle. And Trump is going to definitely, with Trump being the puppet for Iran, for Israel. That ground raid is definitely imminent, and I feel the only people I feel bad for are our soldiers, again, because they're the ones who have to fight for Israel. Like, they're going to be fighting for what Israel wants. We're not over there because where Iran is threatening us, or we're going to have a problem with Iran soon, or anything like that. We're over there because Israel doesn't want Iran to be to exist. So, oh man. Yeah, those are the only people I feel bad for real, are our troops, because they're not fighting for us. They're fighting for Israel. But yeah, I appreciate everybody for stopping by. Nice, easy Friday. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Make sure you pay attention to what you're doing and stay safe. Peace!
The bitch shaking it, showing it. You this, you that. We laughing at them together. Oh! So stop treating these like they mean something.
Let's go to TikTok.